It's Morgan Ingram here with SDR Chronicle number 30, and I have another special guest, Matt from LeadGnome. Super excited to just gonna tell us about account-based approach, account-based intelligence, and really how that fits in an SDR role and how it can help you with account-based marketing as well. So without any further ado, I'm gonna let Matt talk a little bit about his company and how he's using an account-based approach to get results for the customers that he has.
Yeah, great. So thanks, Morgan. I appreciate being on the Chronicles. I'm a fan. I have to say, I am a big fan, and I love what you're doing. So the approach that I've taken and what LeadGnome is really all about is truly the intersection of marketing and sales, and specifically around SDRs. We get a lot of folks from both of those camps leveraging LeadGnome, and in many of the companies that are our customers, we have all of those folks leveraging LeadGnome. So let me give you a little bit of background about that, and then we can go from there. Sound good?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So, LeadGnome comes out of my experience, and it's really a way to capture information about accounts, specifically about accounts, that help you deepen your understanding about them, whether that's understanding how a person continues to move within roles within that organization, whether they leave the organization. It also helps us understand new folks that you may not have known about inside organizations. And then lastly, it talks about sales trigger events and how we can identify those and then leverage those as a whole team. And one of the things I really love about LeadGnome's approach is that, just like the whole ABM movement, right? Flip My Funnel made that popular and so on. We're talking about unifying these two organizations, bringing them closer and closer together and breaking down those silos and making sure that we're all working as a unified organization, because at the end of the day, that's when we're most productive.
Definitely, and kind of dive into the unification and why that is important. Like, what is the result of that, and like why does that continue to happen across the board?
Right. Yeah. So where I see this happening is, let's just take the example I always use is in a lead-based marketing approach, right? Mm-hmm. Where marketing has this incentive, they're incentivized around building up more and more leads. We've all been in that traditional model where the funnel is sort of, large at the top and narrow at the bottom. And so marketing is really interested in quality only after quantity. And so they nurture a whole lot of leads coming in. And when they get to a certain quality score, they say, okay, sales, here you go. And they may truly be of reasonable quality. But the challenge is, if I, and I'll use this term, throw 1,000 leads a month over the wall to my sales team, there's a lot of noise there, right? They're focused on accounts, not leads. So they say, thank you very much, but only 2 of those leads out of the 1,000 matter to me because they're in the accounts I care about. And that's just not the right way to do business.
Right.
What we want to do is, as a group, talk about what those best fit accounts are, agree to those, and then work hard as a single team to, look at those targets, if you will, and try and penetrate those targets. And as a unit, really work to engage with those in a meaningful way, meet the right people within those accounts, and eventually close business, all within those best fit accounts. Awesome. That's really the goal.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the most beneficial thing at the end of the day. You want to accelerate that pipeline and push that forward. So with all that being said, how does that help, SDRs that are listening to this right now, and SDR managers getting those key accounts so we can, reach into those accounts and set the demo for the account executive? How does that account-based intelligence help?
Right. So the whole idea of account-based intelligence is, as the words say, it's really trying to understand, be intelligent, gain that information about the accounts that you're currently targeting in your day-to-day work. And so it doesn't help if marketing is off looking at these 100 accounts over on this side, and sales is looking at, the 100 accounts on that side. So the first thing is, let's all get on the same page. And then the second thing is, how does marketing become more surgical, right? Marketing has traditionally been a broad brush approach. Let's get some awareness. Let's put out these messages to people that match the persona that we're looking for, right? Maybe you're selling to a set of DBAs, maybe you're selling to marketers, what have you, but everybody looks like that group as opposed to that type of person within a specific account. And so I think that where marketers need to adapt is to understand that their efforts must be placed into specific accounts. And that requires skill set changes, and it requires tool set changes. And that's really where LeadGnome comes in. So I had been looking for a way to do this, and I had noticed that when we ran campaigns, information coming back at us from those campaigns had a great amount of intelligence about the specific accounts you were already trying to work with.
Exactly. And how have you found that be good for SDRs, right? So, there is that A, B, C tier that people talk about. How does that process really help the SDRs are reaching out? Is it saying, hey, this person does this and it helps this? Is it help with the personalization? That seems to now be something that is more focused on, as there's so much trash out there and spam.
Absolutely. So think of a situation where you're trying to get more coverage, right? This is one of those metrics, these classic metrics that John Miller talks about when we're talking about ABM. Mm-hmm. It's all about making sure that you understand the folks within an organization to the extent that you get that momentum in there and build up critical mass where you can actually sell. And so what's really important for SDRs is, we're all sending out emails to try and warm up before a call, trying to get some interest. Maybe people click on a link and hey, these people are really interested. Well, along the way, you might get an out of office. And we all know as SDRs that we're really busy. And absolutely, right? And absolutely, we should be looking at that type of reply to us.
Right.
But we just don't have time. If we took the time to look at it, we would gain more information about the person that was out of the office.
Right.
Maybe you didn't have that person's title, now you do. That's excellent at personalizing. It's great for segmentation. Now you know that you're maybe talking to an end user versus a person that has buying power, or vice versa.
Right.
And in addition, maybe that person's out of the office, like, hey, it's Matt, I'm out of the office, call Morgan while I'm gone. Well, now Morgan is somebody that you should really reach out to. They're in Matt's sphere of influence. Morgan might be Matt's boss, might be, a top lieutenant, whatever. It now gives you another person within that organization to start to triangulate on that deal that you're trying to close.
Definitely. And do you feel like this, helps with the noise that the buyers that they're getting a lot? We here at Terminus reach out to marketers, so there's just so much noise because they're getting just reached out to by so many different people. So does that account-based intelligence, that account-based approach really narrow down like the focus of like, hey, look, I have all these things I have to do, but like, let's actually narrow down the focus, like kind of talk about the focus that you're allowing the SDR to have.
Right. So that focus comes in a variety of ways. First and foremost, to understand that person's role, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to waste that person's time if they're not the right person, and you certainly don't want to waste your time. You have a lot to do. And so in both ways, you can sort of rule out somebody or say, no, that is a person we really want.
Right.
That intelligence is essential for ABM success. If you don't understand who it is that you're about to talk to, right? We all do our homework.
Right.
We need that homework. We need to understand what that person is all about. And we also see things like title changes, right? So how about if I give this example too, and this maybe comes a little bit off of SDR specific, although
Yeah,
some SDRs are in charge of renewals as well.
sure.
How about if you had somebody you were talking to, Mary, and Mary's your end user, but because of an email response, you now know that Mary's title has changed. Now she's director of marketing, not marketing specialist.
Hmm.
Guess what? Mary has now become your buyer.
Right.
And messages have to change. You could sell into Mary. You could show her more value and ask her, hey, would you like these new options? That is a complete mindset. And as SDRs, we really need to have that intelligence so we can be smart about how we engage with those folks.
Yeah, definitely. And I like what you said about the change of titles from the marketing specialist to the marketing manager. Kind of touch on the point of like, does each message need to be tailored within that account to each specific buyer persona? Does that need to be a different message, or does it just need to be the same because you know that your message resonates with everyone within an organization? Kind of touch on that.
Yeah, typically they're not the same, right?
Yeah.
Typically there are nuances or radically different messages. And in fact, not only do the messages change, right? So let's give a great example. So Mary is your end user. So you want her to know the features that are going to benefit her in her day-to-day work. Where Mary now being promoted and is now your buyer, you probably want to provide a message to Mary that talks about how the team can be more productive, that you can grow pipeline, that revenue is more important.
Right.
Maybe it's, hey, as a marketer, how can we make you more relevant and impactful for that entire process to bring in revenue for the company? Much different message than Mary as an end user. In addition, I think it's really important to marshal the resources within your organization. As an SDR, you need to think of yourself as sort of a CEO of that account. How do I gain the credibility? How do I leverage people in my own organization? Should I ask my CEO, right, as an SDR, should I ask my CEO to reach out to that company's CEO at a critical point in the conversation? The answer could be yes, but what you don't want to do is have an SDR by themselves necessarily to reach out, because peer-to-peer makes a lot more sense.
Right.
And so you need to look at the scenario, run the right playbook, and that playbook has a bunch of players on your side and a bunch of players on that account side, and you need to match them up appropriately.
Awesome. And you talked about how the SDR needs to be that CEO. Well, what type of mindset are you really talking about there? You know, owning your space, like owning what your accounts, like kind of talk about that mindset that every SDR should have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, right? So SDRs, salespeople in general,
Right.
You have to realize that you're the front line. You're building this rapport and this engagement, and you're seeing it before anybody else, right? So if there's little changes here or there in the account, if the temperature of the account changes, if new people are introduced into it, or you stumble upon a new person, all of that has to be looked at from a strategic perspective. And you have to really figure out what's the best way that I can make forward progress in this rapport. How do I strengthen? And it's not really how do I sell. It's how do I continue to provide value, which ends up in a sale as a natural consequence, right? As a natural process. And sometimes that means, hey, let's get the product manager involved. Sometimes let's get, the CMO involved, the CEO involved, whatever it takes. You need to be thinking about those things and how that end result can come about for you in a positive way. And that's what it's all about. It's not just sending an email. It's not just making a call. You should never feel like you're alone. As an SDR, it's your job and your responsibility, and feel good about it, that you have the power to look across your organization and say, I need you, Jim, CEO, or Sangram, CMO, to help me make this point for this particular account, because we're at that level, we're at that stage. So important that you as an SDR feel empowered.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I love that. You touched just a little bit before. How does account-based marketing specifically help the SDR and help service organization, and why is that alignment important at the end of the day?
Yeah, so the whole idea of account-based marketing, and we have account-based marketing, we have account-based sales development, all this.
So many.
The way I think of it is account-based marketing is sort of the phrase that people are most aware of.
Right.
But for me, it's truly breaking down silos and bringing marketing and sales together. And as an SDR and your counterparts in marketing, you need to be working towards the same goals. Now, who directs those goals? When an account is truly engaged, the salesperson and your marketing counterparts have to be talking, the communication has to be there. And at the end of the day, the SDR knows that account better than anyone else. And so if you need a piece of content that you think, hey, this is going to really help my prospect understand us better, or better than that, they've asked me this question, maybe classic objection, who knows, but a question, and you want to answer that and then say, hey, let me get you some more rich information about that, right? You want to show them that you're going to provide them value. Well, you should be leveraging your marketing counterparts. Hey, how do we get a extra paragraph about that, right? Here are the bullet points. Mm-hmm. Marketing should be part of your solution for helping your prospects understand the answers to their questions. And so ABM is all about those specific messages. They could be a video. It could be a phone call delivered by somebody else besides you. Whatever it is, ABM is all about marshaling resources with the right messages, which are account specific, and delivering those in the right format so that your specific accounts can better internalize that and make use of it and clearly see the value that you're trying to provide to them.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I appreciate the knowledge that you dropped here on the show and for the Chronicle. Before we kind of close out here, any lasting thoughts on account-based approach, SDRs, and any type of tips you have as a closing thought?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would recommend, and I think SDRs are fairly savvy around these lines, but there's a gentleman, Craig Elias, out there who wrote a book called Trigger Events. And I'm a firm believer in that. In fact, LeadGnome helps to automate finding these things. Trigger events are so critical when you're on the front line. So we talked about title change, but how about if somebody left the company, right? Oftentimes, not only will you get an out-of-office email in a response to one of your emails, but you may get a left the company email that says, hey, Matt's no longer with the company, but Sally is here to help you with whatever you were talking to Matt about. Well, that's something you really need to pay attention to, because if you had a rapport, or even if Matt was a customer of yours, where did Matt go? Because that's a prime person to sell to again, right? They liked you once, they loved your solution. It's likely going to be in a similar role that they'll need that. Likewise, Sally is now here. You need to build a rapport with Sally. And there's a whole bunch of these kinds of trigger events. So I would encourage people to think about those kinds of trigger events and really leverage them. Don't let those opportunities slip away, because while it takes a little bit of extra time maybe to do the research, it is very worth it The people that recognize those trigger events and act on them, you'll have a competitive advantage. You'll be in there first, and we all know people that are in first win the deals more times than they lose, many, many more times. So I would encourage SDRs to really look at those trigger events.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you once again for dropping knowledge here on the Chronicles. I think that everyone really gained knowledge from what you're saying here, and why account-based intelligence and that approach for SDRs and marketing and that sales really helps the alignment and really increases revenues for organizations. And as always, guys, keep dialing, and I'll see you guys soon.